Hey everybody, this is Vera Sadler with VLS Coaching Services, and I am so excited to be here with you tonight with Tuesday Talk Live. And guess what? I have with me the esteemed guest, Mr. David Broddy, and I'm so excited to be able to have him here with us tonight. And we're just here so that we can follow up on the conversation that we've had last week with our young people here that were talking to us. Our young people were talking to us last week about what it means to be young people, to be successful, to work in their industries, in their careers. And Mr. Broddy and I are going to come back and we're going to give an answer to some of those questions and some of those topics. And so I just wanted to come and just introduce you to Mr. David Broddy. He is currently living in Waldorf, Maryland. He started consulting back in 2018. He served in the U.S. Navy. Are you still serving in the U.S. Navy, Mr. Broddy?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Served in U.S. Navy for over 25 years, and he wanted to continue his crusade for service for the people. With his poise, experience, and skill sets, he's looking to help people grow and develop their business, better themselves, and make dreams come true. He prides himself on hard work and the payoff of being good to people. He is a model to forever change lives. So welcome, Mr. David Broddy. Thank you for joining us here tonight on Tuesday Talk Live. I am so excited that you're going to be here with me and let's talk about some of these issues. That not even just issues, but how do we find ourselves? I think this is just a great and crucial conversation we need to have about how we find ourselves as adults, as the older generation. I consider myself older generation, but I also consider myself still quite young. But how do we find ourselves as being examples, mentors to those that are coming up behind us? And I think from just even reading that brief bio that you have, it's exactly what you want to do. As an individual who wants to change lives, that's what we want to do. We want to be the example. We want to be the mentors. We want to be those that plug in and show others how to be better. But give us first a little bit of history, a little bit more you want to tell us about yourself and what you're doing. I know that you were recently here living in Dallas. What took you to Maryland?
Well, I ended up getting stationed out here with the Navy as well, and I did want to expand. Going from Dallas to here, even down to the Carolinas, all the way to Vegas, Jacksonville, Florida, Miami, Florida. I mean, all over the world. I just want to reach out and touch people. We have so many youth out here that really need us, and on the adult side, it's a lot of adults that need me too, in a way that just having an ear. You know what I mean? Like, I like to listen. I like to process things. I like to put things out there to help people grow and understand that if you got something, go for it.
Excellent, excellent. And so, with that being said, last week we had a great conversation with two young adults.
Mhm.
Mr. Thomas Parcell, who's a 24-year-old, he is a manager. I know from experience, because he is my nephew, that he did not take the college route because he did this wisely. He said, "Hey, mom, I don't want to waste your money, but I want to work." And so he worked his way up in the industry, and he is a manager of Home Zone here in Cedar Hill. And he continued going forward until he's a local manager of one of the stores here. And Miss Susan Herrera, and she is a clinical, she's like a psychiatrist in the nursing field, so she works in at Baylor Scott and White locally. And I really felt impressed to talk to two career minded. I just didn't want to pick a Joe Blow off the street, even though we can have that conversation later too, to
Right.
talk to some young people who are not doing something productive with their lives. But I wanted to start with two young productive individuals and say, how did you get there? What was your road to getting there? And did you have anybody positive in your life? And so from that conversation, they both told me that they had some and then they had some negative. And I can tell you, like, from working with Susan, I met Susan on the UT Southwestern campus.
Okay.
And I know one of the reasons she left is because of negative behavior of managers.
Mm, yes.
And I don't know about you, but as in the leadership, I think the worst thing that we can do is present and leave a sour taste in the young person's mouth,
Right.
so that we're supposed to be leading and managing, and
Absolutely.
then they leave a place because of us. Can you speak to something like that?
Yes, absolutely. So my big thing, and one of the biggest things that I teach, especially to leaders, people that I coach, I always tell them, hey, just because a young person in your organization asks you a question, it does not mean that they're challenging your authority. You know what I mean? You have to look at the timing. You have to look at when did they ask you that question. Some of the younger generation, they just be intrigued about how we do business. So you got to see that, and you're absolutely right. Sometimes you can be so aggressive and feeling like you're being challenged that you push away that future leader. So what we want to do is teach people how to take a step back, listen to the question. Don't look at it as that young person being combative. Listen to the question and look at the timing of the question. And I promise you, you will go so much farther if you take that approach to it.
Well, that's an excellent response because it feeds back into what Susan was talking about. And she was saying how, as individuals, when we look at it, we need to really understand, and it may come from her psychiatry background, her social worker background, but she was saying how we need to have a little grace and understand that we do things differently. They do things differently. And I know you and I know we came from a different but we grew up differently. But if we look at how they process, they do process things quicker, but even with processing quicker, they ask questions differently and they need a different, they don't just want to hear. And one of the comments that was made to during that conversation was, don't just say do as I say and not as I do. They want you to actually say do as I say and as I do. They want your words and your actions to line up. And too many times we've said I said it and that settles it. But for a lot of our young people nowadays, I said it and that settles it is not a good enough answer, and it's not a good enough way of being for them. I find myself now trying to be more of giving more of a breakdown. I think sometimes they don't want you to say it, they want you to show it.
Right.
Have you found that when you're working with individuals?
Yes, I have. And, another thing too, we need to look at a lot of these kids, we have the mindset that, hey, they may have came from a single parent household, but a lot of these kids came up in two parent households, seeing their mother and father operate as a team under leadership, so they understand the concept, they understand the process. So when you have somebody that got that, they want to see that action. Absolutely. Now, the ones that don't see the action, they are now maybe, or they could be afraid of it. So they may ask a few more questions, but it does not mean that they won't get the point if you show them and put it into action. So, I mean, I see it all the time, especially in the military, outside the military. People just want to know that you care, number one. And number two, if you're going to take the time to show them and you got their attention, now you know that this could pay off. So you got to think about that too.
So you struck a chord just now with me, and I just want everybody to know none of this is scripted. So Mr. Broddy and I are both just going for a broke because I just wanted to hear his heart concerning some of these issues. So both of us have a military background, and with our military background, it gives us a real sense of leadership and discipline and the way we do things. But it also gives us a way of sometimes how we deal with people, and sometimes it's a little firm. But I think maybe in this era, I have learned. I'm not sure about you, but I've learned. I used to be called Little General. That was my nickname. I'll just put it out there. Had a nickname at my old church when I lived in Colorado. It was called Little General because I was no nonsense. I just want it done, and I'm still in a way a little perfectionist. And my family would always say, "Hey, Vera, everybody doesn't do everything the way you do." But I had to learn that I had to have grace for people in that. My husband said, "Hey, and just take a step back. If you're going to allow people to do it, allow them to do it their way." But even when you're talking about leadership, and from our military background, what do you think defines a good leader in some ways? Because I'm a leader. I love being in leadership. I feel like the Lord allowed me to go into the military. I mean, I didn't stay for a very long time. I didn't stay to 25 years like you are. I didn't stay that, but I think I was a born leader.
Right.
What do you think defines some traits of a good leader?
A good leader, number one, they present.
Wow. Excellent.
They're present. They're present. You have to be visible these days. You have to be visible. No longer can you send somebody out to do the dirty work. Good leaders are going to go out there and understand that the times have changed. Back when we, first started out, folks would be real hard, and we had that tough skin. But now being present is so important because they don't want to feel like, or especially your workers, oh, well, I mean, he just gonna come out here and yell, or he just gonna go out here and go off. No, once they see you out there being present and understanding, being firm but fair is very key to that as well. Especially when you know that people are already looking for your direction. So the biggest thing that I can say for leaders today is, number one, be present. Number two, understand your people. Number three, know your mission or your mission statement. What's your company stand
Oh,
for? What
wow.
so when you know that, you know how to move accordingly. And when you do that, now you're able to start a process of duplication. Now you know that, hey, they see me do it. They see my other first line leaders do it. When their time comes, they're going to know the blueprint, and they're going to know how to execute once they earn that position to do that. So those are some of the big keys that I like to touch on.
Wow. That's a mouthful. That's a mouthful. I think that I see a lot of stuff on Facebook, on well, more on LinkedIn about leadership, leadership, leadership. I struggle with those who are in leadership and not that whole thing process of duplication that
Mm-hmm.
you just said.
Right.
We haven't duplicated that down to the staff, and so we have staff and employees who haven't benefit from that good leadership, or and it hasn't been passed down. So I felt like when I was in the workplace, I was a good leader, but I was stuck trying to um, pass that down
Mm-hmm.
because of what was in our HR policies. Now, when you're in the military, yes, you're able to allow that to be passed down and duplicate that and train. But I think in corporate America it's a little bit different because of some of the rules and the regulations and the policies. You kind of handcuff sometimes, people in the
Right.
work ethic, and that's a whole nother topic to go in. But that leads us almost to some of the things where we have this view of how we were trained. And um, Miss Susan said, and Thomas said this last week. They said, as our age group, how you said we came up in a different way. They said they feel like we don't advocate for ourselves. And I want to touch on this because when I was in the workplace, and not that I still don't work, I just work for myself now,
Mm-hmm.
work for myself and work with my husband. They said they feel like we don't stand and we don't advocate for ourselves in the workplace or in different avenues and community. And I don't know if that's necessarily true, or if we just struggle with policies, we just struggle with processes, or we just struggle with really communicating with young adults. And I don't know. I mean, you have a firm where you're trying to help people. You're out in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you struggle with that integration? So really, it's not just advocating for yourself, but it's also the integration of our age group with the younger age group.
Yes. Well, so for me, I looked at it from the standpoint of, how can I make work ethic contagious again?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And if I can figure out how to generate that hunger to have a strong work ethic, I think that kind of takes away from that bumping heads. Finding somebody talented, finding what makes them click, finding what makes them motivated. And it's not about me anymore. It's not about the folks that's been around for a long, long time. At some point, we got to understand, we got to turn this over. So when I look at it, so in the military, we hire fast but fire slow. And on the civilian side, they hire slow but they fire fast. And so when people don't make that right transition, like you get people that's been around in our industry for years, and then when they go to the civilian world, they have a hard time because they're used to structure, but they're also used to being in charge and not taking orders. So you have to take a step
I
back,
understand.
so you have to take a step back and understand that, hey, you know what? I've already got me. It's not about me anymore. And so you got to take that ego out. You really have to take the ego out of what you know, because somebody always can give you just a little nugget that you can take home. So that has made it easier for me when I look at it from that standpoint.
That's excellent. And trying to get that work ethic, I always felt like was the work ethic when I felt like when I advocated that people sometimes felt like and not saying that I wasn't a great manager, because I still have communication with tons of people that I manage, tons of people still admire. I have They still call themselves my team. You
Yes.
know, they still come over, have great time and hang out. But I think some people, that work ethic that you're talking about is the piece that, um, and Susan and I were kind of talking about this, and she was saying how there's a difference between the way they do things and the way we do things, and just the and she was saying, well, we just have to have grace in the communication. So my conversation, I think, is how do we have grace in the communication, but like you said, also try to build up the work ethic,
Hmm.
because our work ethic was you get in there, you get it done, you grind. And she's saying, but they move. And my husband and I was having this, I don't know if it was my husband and I or my sister and I, we were having the conversation how at that time we were taught, as you say, you stay and you get it done and you progress and you move, you don't move. But we find younger people, they move through these jobs quickly. I don't like it. It's not fitting. Let me go
Right.
find something else that fit. And I just wonder how, as we try to set an example for young people with work ethic,
Right.
how do we show them that it's not always about you liking it, but is this where you're supposed to be and what can you bring? So I've tried to tell people, what are you supposed to bring? How do you fit? So, as a woman manager, when I go to a workplace, first of all, I try to, like you said, let's take me,
Hmm.
because Vera is not it's not about Vera. It's about the skill set. It's
Right.
about what I've been hired for. It's about what am I supposed to bring to the table. And I always try to teach individuals. Tell them, first of all, let's look at this as a pyramid. You're one piece on the pyramid, but your part is important. And
Hmm.
if you don't bring your piece 100% to that pyramid, then the pyramid is off balance and everything will crumble because you're not giving 100% of yourself as in your work ethic to this part of our team. And
Hmm.
so that's the way I used to train and work with my team. But everybody doesn't come to work that way. Now, one thing, you can't force people to
You're right.
see that.
You're
But I think that's how I would advocate for myself and
right.
for my team. And so I just to me that's my answer back to how do we advocate when we go to the workplace and in community. I think even in community, I think that's a way we advocate, and you can answer back for this too, but I think that's the way we advocate in community. The community, that we're all part of this community and we all need to do our part to make the community better.
Right.
If we're just sitting back and saying, well, I'm not going to do anything, I'm just going to close my eyes to what's happening. If we close our eyes to the crime, the violence, the sex trafficking, human trafficking, yes, I'm calling it out live on Facebook Live. If we're closing our eyes to the gangs, to the drugs, to everything that's happening, and let it be someone else's problem, then the pyramid is imbalance.
Right.
And if we don't get into, now everybody's not called to everything,
Hmm.
but everybody has a piece to play, right?
You're right.
Can
You're right.
you, what do you, because like I said, your part, I'm speaking to your part, your skills that say you have a piece too to make things better. And we all do.
Hmm. So I'm gonna give you something, if I may. You look at the circumstance. So you
Mhm,
want the result, right?
mhm.
And when those people jump into that pyramid that you speak of, you got to look for the three T's, okay? And the three T's you look for is triggers, trauma, and turmoil.
And oh yes.
Okay, so triggers, trauma, and turmoil are three of those silent killers for a lot of people. You know what I mean? So if you're trying to understand your end game, the end result, you got to look at the result of it. You got to look at the circumstance of it. So what is going on to where something's going to happen that's going to trigger you to feel a certain way? Do you know how to act? Do you know how to respond to it? Or are you going to go back into your shell? So when I say advocate, you advocate to take those silent killers out. Because a lot of people have triggers that just sets them off. Even if it's small to you, it's big to them. They got traumas that they've been dealing with since childhood, and they just haven't dealt with it yet. And then at the end, when you look at the turmoil that they've seen in other workplaces, other work environments, and now they're coming in here thinking that, okay, well, is it going to be the same old song? How can we advocate to take those three T's out? And if you take that approach, you'll understand the conversations you may have in the break room, on the playground, even at lunch somewhere. You can kind of weed through those things to figure out how to ease that pain for them in order for them to be a part of the team. So that's just something to think about, and I speak on that a lot. But those silent killers, the three T's, I mean, we gotta, as leaders, we gotta be able to weed that out and get that out.
Wow, and wow, that's such a good point. And we teach from a mental health spot, but I think a lot of leaders or managers in the workplace are not looking at it. They're just looking at this is a problem employee.
Mm-hmm.
This employee is not productive, or they're not effective, and they're not doing. But they don't look at just what you said, and they're not looking at what is the background.
Yeah.
I remember when I was working in a community, not-for-profit community organization. Well, we look at it, and it was for, marginalized population. Of course, you look at it from that standpoint, but as you just said, this is great for any part of the population. This is great for, if you look at that in the work, because we're all human beings, and we're taking that right into the workplace. We take all of this right into the workplace with us. And so we separate it. We say, oh, well, we're separating work. And no, but you're taking all that trigger, trauma, turmoil. I love that, Mr. Broddy, how you just said that we're taking all that, because people are bringing, if they just went through some traumatic event at home and they have to come to work, they just brought that. Mm-hmm. And so when you get to work, for example, if I just had a bad, or if I didn't sleep well, if I just had some crisis and I come to work that morning and I haven't dealt with it, and someone comes to my desk or something with some kind of drama, I'm dealing with that then right there at that moment still, because I haven't dealt with the crisis.
Right.
I used to teach that when I taught anger management, that it's not even necessarily that moment of what happened that moment, but it's all the pile up that now sets me off.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The biggest icebreaker that I feel is so important is a simple good morning. Good morning. How you doing?
Yes.
How was your day? How was your weekend? How was yesterday? Just having that small little icebreaker. And sometimes with a simple good morning, or just acting or showing your concern, you may get a breakdown from somebody. They just cry. They just let it go, because now they know, oh man, this person cares. So that's the easiest gateway to get it out somebody, is to find that icebreaker, with that person. So just something to think about.
Right. Well, some people may say, well, you're not really addressing the issues that they talked about, but I think we are. I think we're talking about how are we bridging the gap between how the young people see us and how we have, and why sometimes we don't just leap forward, because sometimes they may say, well, you're just not leaping forward. You're just not saying something. You're just not doing. And what I kind of hear you saying is, because we're trying to take a more methodical, more, a simplistic or more approach, that you're trying to be sensitive with the issue, because sometimes we're just not going to leap out and say, yeah, you want me to stand up for myself and say this or do this. But wisdom teaches that sometimes you don't just always say or do. You do sit back and observe. Right. You do sit back and you're silent and you wait till the opportune moment, because I know they're saying you guys need to address things more. You just need to get out there and say things. But sometimes, and to give you an example, because Thomas was giving an example of how he has an older person that works with his group out of all the other young people that are in a group. And he said, and sometimes there'll be a lot of things said, and I know this older person can just say something back, but he doesn't challenge and he doesn't say anything. But maybe that older person is being methodical, and he's sitting back and he's observing, and maybe he does say something to somebody on the backside quietly, because he's maybe thinking about the triggers, the turmoil, and the trauma.
Right. And we also got to think about this too. A lot of the young folks that we do try to work with, yeah, they got a lot of talent, but some of them can be real combative as well. And I don't mind asking the question, hey, are you planning on earning your keep?
Wow.
Or what are your intentions? I mean, I've heard of your past actions as well. You're looking for the flaw in me as a person that's trying to help you, but are you planning on earning your keep here? Where do you want to go? Because there's other people in the room, so the ones that may come off a little, well, you're not doing enough. Well, what more do you want me to do if you're not planning on earning your keep? Sometimes you got to have that tough conversation. Some people like, no, I don't want to have that because they may get mad. Well, they may just be getting mad at themselves, and that's fine too. But when you call it out, now they know that you recognize what's going on too. So maybe they may listen a little harder if you have that tougher conversation.
So, as we continue going on, I want you to address a statement that was made last week that says you're always on stage. And the statement was coming up about we're always on stage, and they wanted us to remember that we're always on stage, and even when we think that no one's watching us or no one's paying attention, and sometimes our actions speak louder than our words, but we're always on stage. And how do you feel about your life knowing that you're always on stage?
I just live it. I just live it. I try to stick to, the basic core values. My ethics, the way I was raised. I stay respectful of people, and I also understand that everybody's not going to like you.
Mm.
Sometimes we can walk in the room, and because we smile, and somebody might get upset. Well, what he's so happy for? So you're right. We're always on stage, but sometimes the audience is just that. They are the audience. We look at TV shows
Oh my goodness.
all the time, and we may get emotional. We may laugh. We may get upset about something. We may not even agree, or we may just turn the channel, or we may change out or cut off the movie. Yeah, you're right. We're always on stage, but how are you going to take it? How are you going to take it? Are you going to feel like it's all eyes on me, or are you going to have the courage to be yourself and move accordingly? Especially if you know you ain't doing that wrong or you're not bothering anybody. But if you're doing mischief, now you feel like you got more eyes on you. So that's a self-checking that you got to do for yourself. If you feel like you're always on stage, but you're looking at it in a bad light, because if you got a good audience, and if you know that what you're doing in your performance as a person is upstanding, then hey, you're just looking to grow your viewership, and hopefully you can get more people to follow you. So that's how I see it.
I've always been this person that, years ago, I probably didn't even think about that being on stage, but I have learned that I am always now
Oh,
on
yeah.
stage. If no one else have taught me that, my grandchildren have. My granddaughter walking around in my shoes and mimicking how I put on lip gloss and the different colors. I think I was online one time, or I was sharing with some women in a group how my granddaughter dances.
Mhm.
And, when they do the makeup, they have to use bright red.
Right.
And I love red lipstick, whether people agree with that or not. Like you said, you're darn if you do, you're darn if you don't.
Right.
But there's nothing wrong with my red lipstick. I mean, that's what I like.
Mhm.
But my granddaughter, knowing that grandma wears red lipstick when she has to go on stage for her, she tells my daughter, don't don't worry about that. Just call grandma since she's coming and make sure she has her lipstick in her purse, because she knows, but that's a part of her watching me and knowing what I do, that I can bring her that and I'll have the appropriate shade, appropriate color. But I did a blog one time about in your shoes and how we just have to be careful of who's watching us, in that sense, that if they're trying to emulate something. But there's also a piece of that if people are trying to emulate you, why are they emulating you instead of seeking out what they're supposed to be doing for themselves? It's okay to admire someone, because I am going to be always on stage. And I love the way you say that if you're not up to mischief, you're not up to doing anything wrong. I don't worry about it. But I will tell you, when I was younger, Mr. Brodie, I struggle with that.
Right.
Well, what do people think? Because some of us want the add a girl, add a boy, pat on the back.
Right.
And we're always trying to shift our behavior, our life, what we do to meet the dictates of other people.
Right.
And that stage life is not sustainable at all. When you have this change and you have to put on, like I have these hats sitting over here. If I had to keep switching hats to fit the desires of multiple people instead of just sitting in here and being who I am in my wholesome self, that, I'm Vera Sadler. Sometimes I'm funny, sometimes I'm not, sometimes I just want to relax and be by myself. Everybody thinks I'm an extrovert. Well, I know me. I'm an extrovert just when I have to be, but I really love being by myself. I like curling up with my 1,000 books I have back here on these bookshelves. I love to read, I love to write, but can I just be me?
Right.
And not have to be this square peg forced into a round circle, but we allow people to force us into these things because of the stage they put us on. And it's dangerous to try to force people onto your stage or onto a place or platform you put them on, because when they don't meet your expectations, and here's the danger. If I get on a platform that I'm not supposed to be on, when I don't meet someone's expectations, there comes the trouble, because now then the darts come to destroy me. And so I know they tell us, he said, you're always on stage and somebody's always watching, but your answer was so good to that. Yes, you're always on stage, but be your authentic self. So anybody that's watching and listening to this, whether you're watching it now or you're watching it later, be your authentic self. Mr. Broddy gave an excellent answer, because if you're not doing anything, you're not up to any mischief, and especially you young people. If you see someone that you emulate, if you see someone that you admire, don't pick apart every part of their life. Just, if they're good at what they do, just watch, follow. If they're a good leader, follow. If they're following somebody else, follow them. But don't pick apart every single piece and then throw darts at the parts you don't like. Let them be their authentic self, and then you be your authentic self in following them. Because that's very dangerous in trying to be someone else, or trying to put someone on a stage that they can't sustain on, because then they're definitely going to fall off and not meet your expectations.
You're right. You're right.
Because I've been there, and I've done that to somebody else as well. I'm speaking from experience. I've done that to someone else as well. So I just really wanted to hit home on that trying to put someone on a stage, or trying to be on a stage that we don't fit, is very, very dangerous. But I do enjoy being a leader. So let's kind of transition to being a mentor.
Okay.
Because being on a stage sometimes will put you in a light where people gravitate to you. I hope this conversation is okay with you. I hope you're enjoying kind of just chatting about some things.
Yeah, it is.
I'm sure in your position, you have been a mentor, especially being in the military as long as you have. I'm sure it has afforded you to be a mentor to young women and young men alike. What has that been like in your life, being a mentor and an example to other young people?
It's been an up and down road. Everybody don't fit in the category. You know, you can't mentor everybody. They have to be a fit. They really do. And it took me a while to understand that. You can't help everybody. And once I got to the point to where I realized that I couldn't help anybody or just everybody, I got to the point to where I chose the right path with the right people, because it started to become draining. It started to become to the point where it's like a waste of time. You know, people come in and just take the energy away, take what they can get, and then they just kind of push you off to the wayside, knowing that they're not going to do right with what you tell them anyway. So as time went on, I was like, man, like I'm really trying to help this person. I'm really trying my best, but I just can't get through to them. Then I had to realize that they're not trying to allow me to get through to them. You know, so once I understood that, hey, this person cares, this person really wants help, those are the people that I gravitate towards. And even if someone come and ask me, hey, could you be my mentor, I always sit down with them and I have a very in-depth conversation with them with what it entails if I become your mentor. Is that something that you can handle? Is that something that you can commit to? Because if you cannot commit to it, then take the time to build yourself up to be ready for me. You know, and that has saved me a lot of time. And sometimes silence is a mentor as well. Sometimes you just got to cut people off.
Hmm. I was going to ask, how do you weed out who, but you answered that. Um, so what happens? You said silence is a mentor. Have you had people start with you and then they just fade out? They just stop
Uh,
working with you in mentorship, or have you had some good success stories that
yes,
you could share?
yeah, I've had a lot of good success stories. I've seen people, from the time they was, super young. I mean, even in the military, or even, or coming down to the civilian world. I see people and they have this hunger, and we just feed it and we feed it and we feed it, and then it goes from me being their mentor to me being now excited to learn something from them. So I think those are my success stories, when that elevation is so high to now I'm excited to learn something from their development. So those are like the biggest success stories for me, whether it's them, whether
Oh, there you
whether
go.
it's them getting to the point to where, hey, I just discovered this about myself. I just learned that I can do this. I want to go and start this. I want to give this back. And that comes from us spending real intimate time getting to the bottom of how they're going to get to the top. So I love those. I love those types of people who are hungry to be better, but to give back as well. So those are the ones that I push to bring into my circle. But if I know that they're not ready, I have the conversation with them and let them know why I don't think that I would be a good fit for what they're looking for. So it's just all about, me preserving that time, my time and their time.
I have had I mentored. I still do mentor. I have had, and I had an awesome opportunity when I was at UT Southwestern to be a part, and it was also it was called a Veterans Resource Business Resource Group, and I had the opportunity to mentor a young veteran who came onto the UT side. And as you know, you said it earlier, it's such a transition to
Yes.
go from being in the military and working in the military and then coming in the corporate. And I think she expected the growth and the promotion and the for her supervisor. You know how our supervisors identify our skills and talents in the military. You need to test for this, you need to do this so you can be elevated and promoted. Well, that doesn't happen in corporate America like that.
Right.
And she was so frustrated. And so the mentorship program was a year long. And I was able to walk alongside her month by month and coach and mentor her in how to, first let's rope some of this in. You're not in the military anymore.
Mhm.
This doesn't work like this, and just crucial conversations. And after at the end of the year, she was able to first rope a lot of that tension in
Mhm.
and redirect it, and then she was able to get to the not the high level she thought but the next level supervision position that or management position she thought she could get to, just from having crucial conversations but respectfully.
Right.
But it was that whole mentor, let's talk about this. How about you bounce your conversation off of me first, and then let's talk about how it goes. But I had to work with her. And then I had one I was trying to mentor, but every assignment, every week, she never came prepared.
Mm.
And so I knew she wasn't ready. As much as I pushed her, every week it was there. Well, I never had a chance to get to it. And I'm like, but if you're trying to do this, you'll make time for it. And so it goes back to what you're saying. When you're pouring, you can't do more for your mentee than they're doing for themselves.
Right.
And they have to be prepared. So this goes for you guys who are listening. If you're looking for Mr. Broddy, you're looking for me, you're looking for anyone to mentor you, you have to be ready. It's a give and take relationship. You can't go to a mentor, because part of the conversation I had with them was who's setting examples, who mentored you, who talked to you, who helped you along. Well, sometimes we want people to help us along, but we want them to do all the work.
Right.
I can't go to someone and want to be helped, but they and want them to drag me. It's like dragging dead weight,
Oh
and
yeah.
that doesn't help.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I like your aspect of it. I mean, I learned part of that scoping out. I call it scope, or just narrow down, drilling out who I can work with, because as a mother, we have this big heart. I don't know if guys do it the same way, but I just wanted to help everybody. I'm
Right.
a nurturer. I want to help everybody. But I had to learn my time is so valuable
Valuable.
now.
Valuable. It is valuable.
And I was burnt out. I was getting burnt out with being pulled in every direction, and I can't do that anymore. So it's so important to have those crucial conversations. And people think it's offensive if you say, what you just said it. Are you ready for what I'm going to bring to the table as well? Because what I'm going to bring to the table is requiring you to be committed and
Right.
requiring for you to put in just as much as I'm putting in, if not more.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's very important.
So my goodness. What else could you? I mean, we still have about 15 minutes here, but
Uh,
I don't want to keep doing all the talking. I want something else you think that is so important for our young people to know as we continue on with this conversation, or just something you think people need to know about mentoring, about being an example, about just the workplace too. About we're talking about leadership. We're talking about a lot of little varied topics. I know this was kind of offshoot, but I think it's crucial to let people know that if we're trying to develop, we're trying to grow in business, we're trying to be good leaders, we're trying to be examples in the community. For me right now is really being an example, is trying to break some barriers between the young and the older, but it's also trying to be an example. I want my grandkids, Mr. Broddy, I want my grandkids to see me and just want to be that way. But I also want my children.
right.
I'll give you an example. I had a conversation with our son tonight, and he said something. Of course, I've been trying to have this conversation with him, but he said, and I said, well, you know what? I can't convince you. I can't change your mind. All I can do is give you truth.
Right.
When you've told someone truth, especially family, let's go to family. How do you deal with when you give family truth and it's like throwing something against the wall and it's definitely not like that gummy stuff my grandbaby's throwing it sticks.
Right.
It goes to the wall and it just falls down. How
Right.
do you deal with that?
Phew, now that's a good question. It's a tough question. When it comes to family, I mean, even with my children, or a brother or a parent or whatever, sometimes you have to talk about the accountability of what's the actual problem. Like what caused this? Like what made this come about? Was it something that I did, or is it something that you felt that I didn't take the right way? Did I not respond fast enough? Like, I just like to talk about it. Like, what's the real issue here? Is it something that happened months ago? Is it something that you just need to get off your chest? I mean, sometimes you got to have those tough conversations to get to the bottom of it. Like, some people find it weird, like me and my brothers. Like, we don't argue about nothing. Like, I can't
Mm,
tell you the last time me and my brothers got into an argument about anything. I mean, we may have been like school age, and the way we was raised, we was just raised to like just love each other. Like, we crack jokes, we take care of each other in a way that we know that we are true to, we are we are keepers of each other. So I don't I don't see how fighting with a sibling can cause a divide so long. Like, some people I know, they have talked to their family in years. Nobody never took the time to just repair that broken relationship. So for me, I like to talk about it. And if we can't get to a point to where we can, agree or agree to disagree, then we just take that separation time. Now, I don't, and like encourage that, but sometimes you may have to just take a break. But I was just raised to just talk it out. If something's going on, hey man, like, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have did that. Like, it's not that hard to me to apologize for something that I have done or may have done, even if they took it the wrong way. So I don't have an issue, and my close family, we don't have an issue with talking about things. So I've been gone away from like home, for like a long time now. So when I come home, I see people that I haven't seen in years, and I love to catch up with them. I love to have conversation. We may even talk about childhood like stories or whatever. And then there are some people that I don't talk to them at all. The energy is bad, And even with family, if I find myself in a situation where the energy is bad, I just separate myself from it. I move about. Hey, I'll see you next time. So I try my best to protect my peace, and at the same time, if I see it coming, I go the opposite way. I just go the opposite way. I'm like, hey, you know what? Maybe this was a bad time. I'll talk to you later. So that's how I deal with it with family. And I'll get a phone call. Hey, I was in a bad mood the other day. I had this going on. I'm sorry for coming off that way. So it's not, everybody's not perfect. I have never seen a perfect family. But when you love each other to the point to where when it's time to take a break and cool off, I think that's what makes the family keep going. So that's how I deal with it. That's how I deal
Love it.
with
Yes, because I love what you said about protecting your peace. So in every situation, that's what I have. And I think that's a sign of maturity. I
it.
don't think when we were young that we always did that. I know when I was young, I wanted the last word sometime. I know I look like this nice, sweet lady that
Yeah.
would never argue back like that. But
Mhm.
I had a gift of getting a word in. But I'm
Right.
at the point now in my life where it's cool.
Mhm.
And if something disturbs my peace, so I love that you said protecting your peace, and it's not just family, it's family,
Mhm.
and back to the workplace and back to community. So
Right.
I have learned now that I am doing things in life that elevates the peace in every situation. So whether it's work, community, life, family, church, whatever the opportunity.
Mhm.
So one of the things you said here, you have a model to forever change lives.
Yes.
I want you to kind of describe that for us, because for me, that protecting that peace,
Mhm.
that um that not learning those three T's, um being a good example, being having that mentor fit, all the things we've talked about, to me is what would help me have that type of model. But you
Right.
tell me, what is your model that you have that forever changes lives?
Well, so the one thing I do when I'm talking to somebody, even if they're in that academy, the one thing I start out with is, who's the 5 people that you have closest in.
Stop and tell us what the academy is first.
Yeah, so it's called FCF, Forever Changing Lives, and
Okay.
I actually work with youth from the ages of 13 to 17. So that little piece right there alone allows me to work with the younger generation coming up, especially when they're on the brink of adulthood. So the one thing that I concentrate on is giving them an opportunity to understand that, hey, your opportunity is coming. And a lot of people feel like decisions are made, well, at the adult level, but there are decisions that I feel those young kids, um, they they want to make it, but they don't know how to make it. They don't know if it's okay to make it. So when we talk about this stuff, and we bring it to the forefront, I'm able to download this, and I ask for permission to have like a debrief with the parent, the guardian, or whatever. And when I get a chance to debrief those types of things, like, hey, this decision, you know, he or she really wants to do this, or they really feel that they would do good at this sport, or they play this instrument. I mean, something as small as saying, hey, you know, I want to start a project where we go out in the neighborhood and clean up. Something as small as that. So what I do, I give people an opportunity to have a breakthrough. And whenever you have that breakthrough, especially with a young person, we have now just changed their life either for the better, or we've put them on the right path. So I always ask, hey, who are the 5 closest people that you are hanging with, whether it's in school, on the team, or whatever. And I want you to look at, how do they carry themselves? Do they hold the standard that you feel, you should be a part of? And when you start to look at those friendships, you now understand that now you got an opportunity to mash the gas and go the wrong way, or match the gas and go the right way. So when I say forever changing lives, the minute we get them at that critical age, when we get them at that critical age, we are now setting them on a right path. And it's not just about the parent or what the parent want or what the guardian want. Hey, now we've given somebody an opportunity to go out and be them. So I feel that that is very critical, giving somebody an opportunity to be them, their authentic selves without judgment, without feeling like it's a bad decision. And you have to be open to take that in. So that's why I say we are always trying to have that impact to always change somebody's life, and especially for the better. So that's where I get that slogan from: forever changing lives.
And if someone is interested in having their youth be enrolled in Forever Changing Lives Academy, how do they reach out to you? Because I'm actually putting this on the Facebook page right now. How do they get in touch with you? How do they reach out? Do they just go to your Facebook page? Is there?
Yes, you can go to my Facebook page with a direct message, or you can go to brodyconsulting.com and go to my website, and you scroll down to the bottom, and the FCL Academy is right there. And have all the information you need to get in touch with me. If you want to do a direct message through my website, it'll actually come to me as well. But yeah, I mean, it's so many ways to just reach out. I'm available, emails, through the website, through the social media platforms. And once I get it, I reach out, we talk, we have like a in processing, and I do like an interview. I interview every single client before I take them on to make sure that they are a good fit. And once we get to the point where we know it's a good fit, then we go and we make some magic. We go make some magic.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about that, and I hope that someone will come on, will listen to this live. I'm gonna, of course, put it on everywhere I can. It'll be available. I am so thankful that you came over and shared that, because I know that there are some young people, Mr. Broddy, that need you, that need to hear more about what you're doing. We have so many young men, so many young girls, so many young people that need to have that fit,
Mhm.
and like you were saying, that need to have their lives change and need to have someone that has that heart like you. I mean, just even the little bit of conversation, I know I was talking about a lot of different things tonight, but even in those talking about those different things, I heard your heart, which is there's a way for change, there's a way to impact lives, there's a way to make a difference. And one is that we're showing up as our authentic self. You said you want to, there's a way when you're talking to these young people, you're letting them be their authentic self. And I think the way they can do that is because you're your authentic self.
Yes.
You're on the stage as your authentic self. And I think we have a set group of young people. That's what they want now. They're hungry for transparency.
Yes.
They don't want all that fluff and all that stuff where we're just saying it. They want to see, can you just come and be you in my life and and love on me in
Mhm.
that way, but give me truth.
Right.
And I hear that from you. And I'm so excited about what you're doing. And maybe if there's any kind of way I can partner with you to help you, be there to support you, send somebody your way that needs help. Because if we can save someone from the streets, save someone from our jails, if we
Right.
can save them from being caught up in stuff that they have no business doing, we
Hmm.
save a life. We not only save a life, but we think legacy wise, we save families.
Oh yeah.
We
Oh yeah.
create wealth. We create young people that are doing awesome things with their life. And that means so much to me to see these young people just turn their life around. And we don't know the next great lawyer, the next great doctor. We don't know the next great who can be president, who's the next senator, because we've taken just what 6 months, a year, or however long it takes just to spend a little time with somebody, just to show them more than what they've seen in the past.
Yep. You're right.
So I'm just so excited about the opportunities of those who will contact you. And I will tell you from my contact with him, guys, he's very responsive. He's not one of those individuals that ignore your texts, ignore your emails, or any of that. He has answered every text and every email like immediately. So please reach out to Mr. David Broddy. Please contact Broddy Consulting and get your young people involved as soon as possible, because we know we have a lot of people that need, and a lot of families. Look, we've seen too much on the news, right?
Right.
Where parents are saying, oh, but this didn't have to happen. Oh, that didn't have to happen. Well, maybe it didn't. Maybe we need to take responsibility on the front end.
Oh yeah.
And reach out for help. Don't be the silent one sitting back and letting our children run wild, letting our grandchildren run wild. And let's take a little bit of responsibility and connect them with positive individuals like yourself. Any closing remarks for us before we end this Tuesday Talk Live?
Well, I just want to thank you again for allowing me to come on to your platform and speak. I mean, it has been an absolutely great conversation to have with you. I will be here. I will support anything you need on this end. If my schedule lines up, I am there. No hands down. I think that what you're doing is great, and we need more of it. We need more of it. So once again, I appreciate you having me on, and it is truly a blessing to be here. So thank you. And anything you need on this end, just let me know.
I will. A happy birthday coming up.
Oh yeah,
Don't get in too much trouble.
I won't. I won't. I won't.
And look, enjoy the Giants game. Let's we got to pray those Giants do something productive this weekend coming up.
Hey, listen. Me and Mr. Sadler are gonna be sitting side by side. He gonna have his New York Giants stuff on. I'm gonna have my Dallas Cowboy stuff on, and we just gonna
You
have
a Cowboys fan?
diehard Cowboy fan. So
Oh my goodness.
we gonna have a good time.
Oh my goodness.
Listen.
Why did you tell me that?
I'm just telling you. Yep. Oh yeah,
A
absolutely.
Cowboy fan and a Giant fan there. I hope you guys don't get put out the stadium.
No. Hey, look, we won't. We're gonna go down to MetLife. We're gonna have a good time. And he can't ruin it because it's my birthday. So I mean, we
Exactly.
got so we just got to go down. We're gonna have a great time. We have a great time. I
Well,
definitely look forward to the fellowship. I do. I look forward to it.
Well, thank you again so much for coming on. Anybody with any questions, again, reach out to Mr. Broddy at BroddyConsulting.com. If you are interested in that service for your young people, if you need a life coach in your life, if you want to see change in your life, look, we're here to help you. I am Vera Sadler with VLS Coaching Services, and we're here to help you make a change. We don't want you stuck where you are. We want you to go and be the best version of you, whatever that is supposed to be. We'll talk to you again next week on Tuesday Talk Live. See you then.